Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make this hexagon cardigan with no gaps in it. So we're going to do granny square hexagons, full on hexagons, no gapping, and we're going to put them into a cardigan today. But first, say hello to my little puppy. Oh, she's so cute. Hey, Shadow. So let's get right to the pattern. I'm using weight 4 yarn, size 5mm hook. Use whatever yarn size and hook size you feel is appropriate for your project. This is just what I'm using. I'm going to start off by making a slip stitch and putting that onto my hook here. I'm going to chain 4 and find the back loop of that first chain I made, and I'm going to slip stitch to join to form a loop here. All right, perfect. So now we've got our loop. I can stick my finger right through here. You could use a magic ring, you could use this method, it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to chain 3 to begin, and this chain 3 is going to count as a triple crochet stitch. And then I'm going to place 2 double crochets inside of my loop. Now I'm going to place 1 triple crochet into my loop here and 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2. Okay, so since this is a hexagon, we're going to need 6 sides. I've done 2 sides already, so each of our sides is that we're going to start out with is a triple crochet and 2 double crochets, a triple crochet and 2 double crochets. So let's continue on with a triple crochet and 2 double crochets. That's got 3 groups now. Let's do another triple crochet and 2 double crochets, a triple crochet and 2 double crochets, okay, and I think that's only 5 sides so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it's getting a little bit packed in here, right? But just smush your yarn on over and let's keep going. Let's put 1 more triple crochet in here and 2 more double crochets. 1 and, whoops, and 2. Okay, so now we've got all 6 sides. I'm going to find that last chain that's in the top of my chain 3, and I'm just going to slip stitch my work to that and chain 3. So we're always going to end with a slip stitch and begin with a chain 3. I am going to turn my work now. And then in this stitch that we just completed, I'm going to place 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Now along every side of my hexagon, I'm going to place 1 double crochet in the top of every double crochet from the previous row. That's always going to be the way that we do it. And then in the corners where I put my triple crochets, we're going to do the same thing in every corner. So let me get these double crochets in here. And now that we're at the corner, here's every single corner. We're going to place 2 double crochets, 1, 2, a triple crochet, and then 2 more double crochets. So all of that whole group, the 2, the 1, and the 2, all get stuffed into that 1 triple crochet from the previous row. Now I'm at another side here, so let's put double crochets in the tops of those double crochets from below. And we've got another corner. So let's do that corner grouping. 2 double crochets, a triple crochet, and 2 more double crochets, all into the same place. And again, we've got our sides, so I'm going to place some double crochets in there. Back to the corner, I've got my group here, this corner grouping, and then 2 more double crochets, another side. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these sides, and when I get to the joining area, I will come back and show you how that's done. Okay, I just completed the corner over here. I've got 2 more double crochets on this side. So I'm going to place 1 stitch into each of those. And then if we remember, when I did this corner space, I chained 3 and that was my triple crochet. So that means that we're missing half of our corner. So I'm going to go ahead and find that space here, and I'm going to place 2 double crochets into that space, find the top of my chain 3, and slip stitch to it, and that completes our round. Now let's do it again. So chain 3, turn your work, and 2 double crochets into the very first stitch. Now in every stitch along the sides, we're going to place 1 double crochet. And then when we get to the corner space again, that triple crochet from below, we're going to put our corner grouping in here. So that's 2 double crochets, a triple crochet, and 2 double crochets. Whoops. And then that's just how we repeat this pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this round and then show you how to join. Okay, I'm right in the middle of this, but oh my goodness, how is she comfortable like that? What's she doing? Okay, so I've just come to finish this round here. I'm going to place 1 last double crochet into this stitch along the side, and then remember I only had that 1 triple crochet for this corner, so it still needs 2 double crochets. So we're going to give it those 2 double crochets, and then we can go ahead and find the top of our chain 3 and slip stitch to join. And again, we're just going to keep repeating that pattern, but it's going to get a little bit lumpy, and that's totally okay, because if you just fold it in half, you can start to see the sweater take shape. So if you can imagine, this is 1 half of the sweater, and then it'll have another half here, and it's like a little cardigan. So essentially you could make this in any size you want. You can make it for a baby, you can make it for a child, you can make it for you can make it oversized, you can make it for a girl or a boy, or literally anybody. Anybody can have this sweater, and it can be any size that you could possibly dream of making. You can make it extra gigantic and nobody would ever fit inside of it. It really doesn't matter. Any size, that's the point. So, what size should you make this? Well, it depends. It depends on how many rounds you need, but essentially this is the end of the sleeve, and when we finish the cardigan, we're actually going to decrease. So we're gonna like scrunch this up and make like a really nice balloon sleeve. But this will be the center of your back here, and then this will be how far it is. I typically will measure how long I want it to be, and then I worry about the arm length later, because typically our torsos are a lot longer than how we want our arms when we're making a sweater. Now on the sweater I had showed you previously when we began this video, I completed 16 rounds per hexagon for that sweater. But that is a weight 5 yarn, so it's a lot larger when you add up all the rows together than this yarn I'm using currently, which is a size 4, which is a very common size of yarn. So again, it just depends on the size that you're making, how many rounds you need to complete, but I would say start with 16 and then see where that gets you if you're making an adult medium-ish size cardigan, sweater, thing, duster, whatever you want to call it. All right, so I'm just finishing my second granny square here, and in order to finish this corner off, I'm going to find that chain 3, slip stitch into it, and then chain 1, and I'm going to pull myself a big loop because I'm going to use this yarn to connect the pieces. So just pull a big loop, make sure that you still have some yarn left over, and then we're going to look at attaching these two corners. Okay, so I've got 2 hexagons now, and it may just look like a pile of blah, but if you take any one of the corners and fold them like this, you will find that it makes half of a sweater. All right, so we've got 2 half star of sweater here. I made each of these hexagon shapes with 16 rounds. You can make it bigger if you want to, or if you're using a larger yarn like this one. This is also 16 rounds, but obviously it's a lot bigger. So, you know, just make it to the size that you need it to be. And basically what you want to check for when you're making the size is that it's going to be long enough, because the arms we're going to have to make longer anyway. So make sure that you like the length of the cardigan for your torso, and then we can worry about the arms afterwards. Now we're going to have to put these 2 sides together, and the way that we're going to do it is we are going to give each of our sides some seams up to where the shoulder is, and we're not going to go all the way across, because if we went all the way across and then we attach these, then we would have like no opening for our bodies to fit into here. So we're not going to do our shoulder seams all the way across. And then once we get that, we're going to do our back seam to attach the back together. So I'm just going to put one of these aside for now, because we're just going to do the shoulder seams on one at a time. And the way that I do this is I'll go ahead and find where I left off my yarn here and try to get that at the top of a shoulder seam. Okay, perfect. So that looks good. I like how the colors look for this one. And my yarn is now at the top where I'm going to be working it again. So the important thing is that, again, we're not gonna put these together all the way across. Let's see, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 stitches in. I made the gap in the shoulders way too big, so I am just going to sew this part up, and that means I'll have, like, instead of 16 stitches open, I would just have like 8 or 10 stitches from the original piece. So just a note on that one. Okay, so I've got my crochet hook. This is the opening of my sleeve here. This is the top, and then we're only crocheting up until this part. Now this is the wrong side of my sweater because I'm making a seam, right? And I don't want the seam to be on the outside, so I'm working on the inside, which means that this is going to be the outside, this is the inside. Okay, and the way that we have crocheted this, how we've flipped every other row, It doesn't really matter. There's no inside or outside until we decide to say, this is the inside, this is the outside. Okay, great. So I'm going to take my piece of yarn here, and I'm just gonna flatten my seam so I can look at it a little bit better. And now I ended in my triple crochet stitch here, so I want to find my triple crochet stitch here, and I'm actually going to pick both loops of that stitch, pull my yarn through, and pull my yarn through again. So that's how I'm going to go ahead and start. And now I'm going to do a slip stitch along the seam here, but what's special about this slip stitch is that I'm only going to be pulling one of the loops. So I've got my stitches facing away from me because this, I think, is the easiest way to do it, and I'm looking at the tops of my stitches here. I'm going to insert my crochet hook into the side of the stitch here, and then from the inside to the outside of the inner stitch here, and then I'm going to pull through all of those loops. Okay, again, from inside and then on the inside of this one, and then pull through all of those loops. Okay, again, I'm gonna do it a little bit closer. Inside this stitch, inside this stitch, and then pull through. And we're just matching up these stitches together, one at a time, connecting them. And what's important is that I'm not making these connections very tight. If I were to, say, hold the tension really tight on here and slip stitch them all together, my piece would get so scrunched up, and I really don't want that to happen. I want it to be nice and flowy, have a nice, you know, give to it. So again, we'll pull the next stitches together and the next ones together, and just keep going along like this until we reach the end. Now, if this joining method is not your favorite, no worries. You can always do a different type of joining method. So this one I've done, and we've got that slip stitch on the inside here, and on the outside it looks really nice. We could say, I'm going to change up the method here and show you something else. We could just insert our hook through the side of each of these stitches and slip stitch, but this is going to look very different because now our slip stitch is on the side. I'm just going to do a couple of these and I'm going to undo them to show you. Okay, so you can see where I did the slip stitches on the top, and it looks really nice, really even. And then where I had the slip stitches on the side, my stitches have actually turned to the side, right? Because my slip stitch is on the gray side and I'm pulling the blue into it. And then on the other side here, it looks quite different. So this one gets a nice like little lattice stitch to it. And the part where I was just slip stitching through the sides instead of grabbing both stitches, it looks different, and it's it's lumpier. So we're not going to do that method. We're going to keep going the way we have been, just picking up the inside parts of these stitches from the middle to the inside and slip stitching them. And now I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to cut my yarn and pull this through. Now I need to go ahead and weave in this end. So I'm going to thread my needle here, and I'm going to thread on the gray side because that's the color of yarn that I have, but either side works. I'm just going to thread through a couple of these loops here to work myself away from the edge, and then I'm going to work my way down through one of these stitches and then into the back loops of this last row that I had completed. And then I'm going to weave back the other way, but I'm going to sort of catch that loop with my yarn. Weave this in through here, so at the end my yarn is going to catch right there. And that's going to keep it secure. I'm just going to do that the other way for safekeeping. Make sure my yarn doesn't unravel ever. That'd be awful. And then I'm going to cut that. Perfect. So now we've got one side, one sleeve, one arm created, and we can go ahead and do the other one. Okay, so we're at the point now where we need to attach the two panels together. Now, if you remember, we put our stitching on the wrong side of the garment. So if I am stitching these two panels together, these ones that are on top, I can just go ahead and stitch these along just fine because my seam is going to be on the inside, and then we'll flip this inside out. If you come here and you open these panels up and you start stitching inside here, your stitches are going to be on the right side of the garment because you haven't flipped these inside out yet. So hope that makes sense. If it's easier for you to just pull these panels out and then stitch alongside here, make sure that your seams get flipped inside out, and then you can do that. Okay, so that is what we're going to do. We're going to flip those right side out, which means my seam is no longer showing on the top here, and we're going to do that to this one as well. So go ahead and flip that right side out. So I've got the right sides facing me now. And I'm going to flip back this front portion. So this is how our cardigan's going to look at the end. Flip that open as if I'm going to wear it. And now we can go ahead and sew together this part. Now it's exactly the same thing that we've been doing. I'm going to start with a slip stitch on my hook here, and I'm going to find both triple crochets. I'm going to go from the outside to the inside of this one, and from the outside to the inside of this one. Why is this one looking weird? Oh, because I didn't see the actual stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to slip stitch that on. Perfect. And now I like to hold this so I can see the tops of these stitches. And one by one, we will slip stitch here. Now, this is the most important part to make sure that your tension is loose. Now, what I mean by that is that these slip stitches you pull through, give it a little extra tug, a little extra room here, because if you stitch this back panel too tight, then when you wear this, or if you're making this for somebody else, when they wear it, the back is going to flap out like a little ducktail and you're not going to be happy with it. So make sure these are loose, give it a little extra room, and it will turn out really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch from the bottom here all the way to the top. Don't cut your yarn when we get to the top. Don't weave in your end yet. we're gonna keep going. I'll show you how to do that next. This is our cardigan. We've got sleeves, we've got a front, our back is put together. Technically, you could put this on and call it a day. We are going to now go ahead and do a border around all of this here to make it look really nice. You can do any sort of stitch around this border. I'm going to go ahead, keep it consistent, and do a double crochet border all the way around. And then we're going to get to the sleeves. And we're going to take these sleeves and we're going to make them so cool. It's going to be awesome. All right, let's go ahead and get started with that double crochet border. Now, when working with this border, how do you know to go to crochet this way or flip this around and crochet this way? Well, we're gonna crochet to the right because I have the inside facing me and I want the crochet stitches, the outer part, to be on the front, the right side of the garment, which means I need to crochet this direction. So that's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and flip my work. And now in every stitch, I'm just going to give myself a double crochet. And this part does take a little bit of time because there's so many stitches to double crochet into, but I promise you it is worth it. You can even do it 2 or 3 times and it looks really great. So we're going to go around and around and around and around. So when I get up until the point where I have this part where we've sewn it together, I am going to place a stitch into there and then into the next stitches all the way around. And that is going to secure that even better on those shoulder points, which are under a lot of tension. And it's going to make it look more full here. And then when we get to, let me turn this, when we get to the corner, we're going to do it like every other corner stitch we've been doing. It stays exactly the same even when we're doing this border portion. Unless you chose a different stitch for your border, which in that case, do the corners however you like. I will be doing them the same way we did them for the main body of this. So when I get to that triple crochet stitch, I'm going to put in 2 double crochets, a triple crochet, and 2 more double crochets. And so that's the same for all the corners that we're going to hit. And I will meet you back at where we began this border. So we've reached the place where we began, and I'm just going to join these 2 pieces together up at the top here. I am going to do an invisible join. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn and pull it all the way through. I don't need a crochet hook for this join. I do need my needle here. And I'll show you how this one works. So I'm going to go ahead, thread my needle, and then I'm not looking at the chain 3 here, but the stitch after that, this first double crochet we made. And I'm going to put my needle through both loops and pull my yarn through. Now I'm going to take this needle and put it down through both loops here. Now not the top loops, right? I'm going in, and then I'm also pulling this first loop and then pulling that tight, and then I'm just going to go back into this stitch on this side, and then I'm going to thread through the back loops like I usually do, and back the other way. And then one more time for good measure. Perfect. Now I can go ahead and cut that. And don't forget to weave in the place where you began. Let's talk about sleeve shapes. So I got my notebook out because we are a professional here. Now there's lots of different options, so I'm just gonna draw like what our sweater looks like right now. This is basically it, right? We've got this. These were our hexagons. And this only comes to like my elbow, right? Like here's my little hand. And this is like me wearing the sweater. Okay. I'm really good at drawing. So we need a sleeve. Now we could either continue on and make the sleeve like this and have it be super gigantic, which is fine. So I'm just gonna, this is like the first sleeve shape, right? We just continue the rows and our hand is right here. Or we could continue the rows and then do a decrease and do a nice little cuff at the end, right? So continue on and then cuff it. That's also nice. Or we could take the sleeve and then decrease, and then we'd have like a little tiny sleeve like this, right? Or we could take the sleeve, decrease, and then do like a ribbed sort of look like that. Or we could just take the sleeve and cuff it here, and then it would be like short. There's a lot of options. Anyway, we're gonna pick one of these and stick with it. I don't have a lot of scrap yarn left, and I know these two are gonna take the most yarn, which is fine. This one's a really fun look because you decrease and then you have like a skinny sleeve the rest of the way, and you can do any sort of like patterning or cables on here. You can really get pretty crazy with it, right? Or we could just end it short. No, I don't really like that because then you have like the whole arm sticking out here, and I'm not really a fan. I'd like a sweater, like a sweater. I think we're gonna do this one. So we're gonna do maybe another row and then a decrease, and then maybe a second decrease if we need it, and then we'll finish out the sleeve. For this one here, you would just take, so here's our sweater, right? And here is, oh gosh, here's a part of the sleeve. You would just attach your yarn into the place where you originally did your seam, and then you would just crochet around, and then start a new row, and crochet around and start a new row, and crochet around and start a new row. I would do the same flipping back and forth, so you're not going in a spiral, but you're doing around, up, and then go the other way, and then up, and then go the other way, and that keeps it nice and straight like we've been doing. And so if you just wanted to extend the sleeve, just do that however many rows you need. When we get to the cuff part, I'm going to show you how to decrease while we're doing this sleeve anyway, but you could do the sleeve all the way out to where your hand is, and then I'll show you how to decrease right now, and then you could add that decrease at the end, and then do the same thing. We'll make a little cuff. Okay, so let's get down to business. Got one sleeve here. I've got my yarn, and I'm just gonna start with a slip stitch on my hook, and I'm going to start with a standing double crochet stitch, and I'm going to put that stitch in the middle of where I joined these stitches together. So I'll do that a little bit slower. I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook and hold it tight, insert my hook where I want my stitch to begin, pull up a loop, and now I've got 3 loops on my hook. Pull through the first 2, pull through the next 2. So this is just a way, in case you didn't want to start with a chain 3, that you could start your stitching with a standing double crochet. And now I'm just going to find the next stitches, and we're just going to do a double crochet all the way around, just so we have a nice fresh base to work off of, and so it's looking nice. All right, so we are back to where we began this lovely adventure, and I'm just going to slip stitch into that stitch there, chain 3, and then turn my work. Now we're going to be doing our decrease row. I'm going to decrease in every pair of stitches because I really want to cinch this in real tight. If you wanted more of a gradual decrease, you could do a double crochet, a decrease, a double crochet, a decrease, or you could do like a decrease, 2 double crochets, another decrease, and continue that pattern all the way around. So I'm going to do a decrease between these 2 double crochet stitches now. Instead of wrapping my hook and doing a double crochet like this, I am just going to insert my hook into this stitch and pull up a loop. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to double crochet that. So again, insert my hook, pull up a loop, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again, insert, insert, pull through 2 loops, insert, insert, pull through those loops. And so what this is doing is it's the same amount of loops that I'm pulling through as a double crochet, because we don't want to put like a double crochet in and then another double crochet in, and then I've got 5 loops on my hook. I mean, what am I going to do with 5 loops on my hook? That's ridiculous. So we put our hook in the first stitch and the next stitch, and then we double crochet that together, and that is going to give us a nice texture. It's going to give us a really nice decrease to the sleeve, and it's just going to look good. So I'm going to do this all the way around and then come back to the beginning and show you what's next. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning now, and I see where my chain 3 is, and I see that I only have 1 double crochet left, but I still want to do a decrease. So I'm gonna insert my hook into here and then go into the base of my chain 3 and do a decrease, and then I'm just gonna forget the chain 3 even exists and slip stitch into the top of that first decrease that we made, and then chain 3 and turn my work. So now if we put our sleeve down, you can see that we're sort of ballooning in here, which looks really nice, but I still think this is a bit too wide of a sleeve. So I'm going to do another round of decreasing. We're also going to put a regular double crochet in between our decreases. So I'm going to find that first stitch here, double crochet once. Let's do 2 double crochets. So once in the first stitch, once in the next, and then we'll do our double crochet decrease. And the next stitch, put a double crochet. In the next, a double crochet. And now let's do a decrease. And then we'll do 2 double crochets and a decrease. I think this is going to give us a nice length, not length, a nice width. Okay, so that looks like a way better size for a sleeve, and I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to join here, chain 3, turn my work, and now we're just gonna double crochet into every stitch in this round. Okay, so I'm just checking the sleeve length right now and it's looking really good. All right, I've reached the end of my sleeve here, and after those decreases, so the first decrease, the second, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 rows. And for this last row, I'm just gonna chain 1 and do a single crochet in every one of these stitches. And I think adding that single crochet row just finishes off the cuff nicely, makes it look nice. I already said that. So I'm just gonna do single crochets all the way around here, and then I'm gonna do another invisible join and weave in my end, and then make sure I weave in the end from where I began. I'm going to do the other sleeve exactly the same way as this sleeve, and then again I am going to sew up those shoulder seams a little bit more because it's more off the shoulder than I was hoping it to be, which is totally fine. It's fixable, not a problem. Here is my finished hexagon cardigan with no gaps on it and using scrap yarn. Thanks for sticking around for this entire tutorial. I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun, and I really hope this was some nice wholesome content for you. If you want to support me, consider subscribing to my channel, giving this video a like, and tagging me on Instagram if you decide to use this tutorial to make your own hexagon cardigan. I'd love to see them. I want to support you, and let's get out there and have some fun crocheting. I am such an artist. Wow. This looks good. This looks really good.